So, just let you know.
And
More than the other branches?
then they allowed the afros with the half.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I always feel like saying amen. I always feel like saying amen. You? Yeah, I do. Like, amen. So be it. You just start singing that one for board meeting.
I used to say born and unborn.
Yes, I've done that too.
Yeah.
All right. So, thank you everybody for being here. Supervisor remarks, don't have any, except that we had two board members that couldn't make it. Any correspondence to this speak of? Okay. We'll start with, it's a brief agenda, but if you have any privilege of the floor for the agenda items, now is the time to speak to those.
Yeah, I'm curious here. What is this resolution 46? Something about authorizing the supervisor to sign Western New York Land Conservancy letter of support for Yates Lakeshore Preserve. Where was this discussed? I got the April 6, 2026 Yates workshop agenda. There was absolutely nothing mentioned about any letter or any discussion of anything like that.
Yeah, at the very end of the meeting on Monday, Shelley reminded me that that's one of the resolutions, so I mentioned it briefly, but we had talked about it the month prior a little bit. Everyone's aware there were emails sent that we're going to be asked to do another letter of support. We did do a letter of support months ago when it first, it's been almost a year since they've been working through the purchase process with the state. So there's already been a vote for a resolution for a letter, and I signed a letter back then. And they want one more for the particular grant that they're getting, and that's what the vote's about, is to support, to allow me to sign that letter in support of that grant.
Okay, well, I was just wondering why it was. I mean, how are you doing this? I mean, I've been to all the workshops and town board meetings. I haven't heard anything about you even a month or so ago. I got it all on video, so there was nothing on there about.
I'm pretty sure I brought it up. And
no, you didn't.
Yeah, and I think what happened, Paul, is I forgot to add it to the last month's resolutions.
Well, how would you forget something like that?
This time, I forgot to discuss it until the very end when Shelley said, oh, don't forget we have that resolution. I made sure they knew. And then I sent an email reminding everybody, because when I first got the request, you can FOIL me if you'd like. It's in there. I've got the request from whenever it came in a couple months ago. Immediately forwarded it to the board. I said, I'll be teeing this up for a resolution. Shelley made a copy of the letter so she could print it off for me to sign. Yeah, I mean, it should have been done more publicly so you would be informed. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I got to talk about it on Monday, but it's all good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, what?
I found a copy of the letter when I was looking through the town board minutes, and the draft agenda is right there for
Yeah,
anyone
we've been
who
working on
wants
it,
to
but
see
keep
it.
forgetting to kind of put it all in place at the right time. So, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay. We'll move on. Let's see. Resolution 44. Resolution to approve the March regular board minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion. Second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Resolution 45. We still don't have the right people who were here for the end of year meeting, so that one is tabled. Hopefully we get that next time. Let's just approve the minutes from that end of year meeting. Resolution 46, resolution authorizing supervisors to sign the Western New York Land Conservancy letter of support for Yates Lakeshore Preserve.
I make that motion with enthusiasm.
Okay. Second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye? Aye. Motion passed. I was just a couple of things here, so you'll see it in the minutes, but this is really exciting thing to see how they're approaching this. This is part of the argument that they're making is that they're going to protect the water quality for the intakes for our water treatment plant and others as another byproduct of it. So it's just really fascinating both on the conservation of the land, the protection of the water. They're there's a whole plan that they're starting to formulate that we'll get to talk to them about soon, which will involve remediation of invasive species, planting of more natural to the area plants and trees. There was only word of mouth, but they talked about it when they're all said and done. They'd love to build a trail that would connect to the park. I mean, it's all good. So we're excited about that. Resolution number 47, resolution to pay the bills.
Make the motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed. Thank you. Okay, privilege of the floor for any items?
Yeah, I got something.
Okay, Paul.
Is Harold okay? I mean, is he in good health? He hasn't been here for 4 months. I'm a little concerned, you know.
He's okay. He should be here next month.
Okay, I know we're all getting older and stuff and things happen, you know. So I didn't know if he was sick or it's highly unusual for somebody to be gone for 4 months. You know. But that's all. If he's fine, that's good. I'm happy.
Should be here next month. Anyone else?
There's one other thing here
Sure.
too, because you say that a lot of these things are done through email, and I've noticed over the years here that, you know, I come to meetings and, you know, you're saying that we're doing group emails to discuss things, and I mean that's illegal. In New York State, emails exchanged among town board members discussing public business can be considered a quorum violation under the open meetings law. While the law allows for private communication, it prohibits group deliberation through emails, as it can lead to a collective decision that is not open to the public. Therefore, if a series of emails among board members results in a decision or vote, it may be deemed a meeting subject to the open meetings law. Additionally, emails that pertain to material matters of town business are subject to the Freedom of Information law, meaning they can be disclosed if requested.
If an email is sent out and a reply all is sent, that could be considered, but if you reply individually, there's not a problem. That's what the way of the world now is email communication. It's not considered a violation as long as there's not a group reply all back and forth, back and forth. So information can be sent one way and one person can respond back, that's okay.
So that's how you work around it?
You also have the.
That's how the school board does it, that's how other boards do it.
Well, maybe they're in
Our goal
violation.
is to make this community a better place. Paul, how would you encourage us to communicate during the months, from month to month? What would your idea be as to how to communicate? Have a meeting every week? Or what would your idea
You have
be?
your meeting at the workshop.
But there are things that happen in between. How would you suggest we do that? I'd like to know, other than email, what your idea is.
Well, how did they do it before? I mean, you're
I'd like
supposed.
to know, because they send letters.
We're not asking
Snail
about
mail.
how, she's asking you.
What would you think? is
I
your
just
idea?
told you.
So you would do no business during the month until you get to the workshop?
It says emails discussing public business. If the emails involve discussion or actions on matters within the board's jurisdiction, they may be considered public meetings and thus subject to the Open Meetings Law. If emails are private communications unrelated to public business, they may not be subject to public disclosure under the Open Meetings or Freedom of Information Act.
What's your goal, Paul? Do you want us to be able to communicate?
it's
or
in
what
set-
is your goal? We can read that, we know it, and we're not in violation, but what would your goal be?
How do you know you're not in violation?
Because this is how it's done. It was done on the school board for years, I've experienced it. How do you know it's not being done?
Because I'm reading the law.
You're reading the law, but you don't know what's happening. How do you know what's
Do you have any
happening?
decisions that have been made based on email?
Yeah, you just made one tonight.
Sharing information, which is
A sharing of
absolutely,
information isn't a decision. It says in the next sentence after that, if a decision or a vote is made. That's the violation. Other things that get communicated may, quote unquote, the word may, be construed. But the second sentence says, if there's a vote taken, and of course there's not a vote. There's collaboration, there's information sharing, and people come to their decisions along the way. And, you know, it could be phone calls, it could be 2-on-2 meetings, it could be text, it could be all sorts of ways that you communicate. And we're asking you, what would you do? You're
I
saying
just told you.
You would just come once
I
a month.
told you what
No
it-
one talks about anything until you have your workshop?
That's what a workshop is for.
That's how you would do it? You recommend
That's how it was done before emails. How did they do it before
We also
emails?
rode horses.
I've been around here for 30
We
years.
also
You
rode
don't think people
horses
make
to
phone
school.
calls?
Would you like us to do that? I mean, come on, Paul.
Why are you being so defensive? I'm just a citizen asking some questions.
I'm asking you some questions and you don't have a good response. I'm curious to know.
How do I not have a good response?
In California, I was an elected official out there, and we always communicated via email. We didn't make decisions via email. It wasn't construed as a meeting, and it was something that was necessary because if the administrator wanted to talk to one of the board members about a personnel issue that might have come up, that's one issue that didn't go to everybody, or we're going to have a meeting on such and such a date to discuss this. Electronic communication is essential.
Just like the Facebook.
And
Well said, Bob. No, I agree.
in good government.
And I think too, you know, the intent of the FOIL laws and open meeting laws have been something I've been paying attention to all along. And I have to think, if you go back and look at the record, that we've been very, very transparent. But do I miss things like on Monday night? Paul's right. I forgot to mention that it's still a resolution that had come up months ago that we still hadn't brought to the table, and so now, you know, we have. So, you know, it would have been in an ideal world something we would have discussed openly on Monday just to make sure we were done. And I think too, the whole question of the open meetings law is intended to make sure that decisions and votes are not taken outside of the public. You have all sorts of collaboration, and before there was emails, it was phone calls, or it was, hey, meet me at the coffee shop, and whatever it was, people still had to communicate to figure out how to navigate things to make decisions when they were at a public meeting, making public decisions. So I'm comfortable with it. Like I said, I offered you FOIL if you want to see when we got the Western New York Conservancy request and how it was been handled. Very, very transparently and very comfortable with it.
Not to the public.
Well, at least to one of the members here was transparent.
I had no trouble finding a copy of the letter.
All right,
And I'll say it.
This letter?
As a new member, I don't know how I would get all the information that I need as a new member of the board if we didn't communicate somehow during the month. I mean, and I'm not a fan of emails. I mean, I just, you know, I'm not a computer geek. But other than sitting here for 8 hours and discussing it, and I don't know how we would get everything done in an 8 hour period.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of information.
I mean, it's a lot of
This
reading.
month hasn't been bad.
I mean, what you sent that thing from the EMS
Yeah,
from Medallion.
I'm gonna talk about that
You
in a
know,
minute. Yeah.
that was 8 pages.
I know, I'm not talking about that, but arm twisting, you know, trying to get everybody on board before the meeting, you know, are you going to vote for this? Are you going to vote for that? You know,
Do you have anything specific that you?
I don't know. You know what I'll do? Every month I'll just FOIL all your emails. How's that?
I'm just curious what you
and then-
are referring to.
and
Why
then-
are you being defensive?
I'm not being defensive.
What
You're saying to me
specifically are
what
you
specifically
concerned
am I concerned about?
about? Yeah, I would like to know so that we can either
I'm
fix
just
it or we can
concerned.
make
I'm
it
just
better.
concerned with, you know, emails violating the open meetings law.
Okay, and I'm just asking you what specifically, you keep interrupting me, but I'd like to know what you're talking about so we can either remedy it or make sure that we're not doing something, because absolutely we want to do the right thing, Paul. So I'm asking, what are you specifically talking about?
I mean, you guys, you talk about shooting each other emails back and forth for things, and I've got it on recorded. I mean, it's not, you know,
There's
it's not
nothing
like
to
I'm
hide,
making
Paul.
stuff up.
That's what we're saying, we're not hiding anything. You're talking about arm twisting and votes. We don't talk, that's,
No, there's
What
no
are you
straw
talking
votes
about?
taken.
I'd like to know what you're talking about. I think that we just wasted 10 minutes of the life that we have, and there's an old saying that bees don't waste time.
This is how you talk to constituents that come in with concerns?
Let her finish what
I
she's saying.
have not interrupted you. Bees don't waste their time telling the flies why it's better to land on flowers. And that's what I feel like we're trying to do here. We're not gonna make you happy.
I came in asking
I
a
asked you
question.
specifically, and you have nothing except for these innuendos.
You're
So
sitting here-
Do what you have to do, and thank you for listening to me.
All right, well, we did privilege before.
Your pleasure.
And as Paul knows and others, this is pretty rare in municipal government for us to have these dialogues. I'd like to have them, I'd like to clear the air, I'd like to go back and forth. Officers' remarks.
I attended that dinner,
Oh, yeah.
or what is it,
Oh, it was the EMS, the Steve Cooley from the fire department in town, yeah.
and they, that's what they discussed, the EMS and the cost of ambulance service. You know, they might try to give us a significant rate hike. Because I think we only got one more year left in the contract.
Yeah, that is the
You know, something the community seriously has got to think about before we're priced right out of it.
Okay.
So,
Good point. Let me piggyback, so there's an email, Paul, that I just sent in response to a meeting that I attended yesterday with village mayor, the new village mayor of Medina, one of the trustees, the village clerk, and supervisors from Shelby, Ridgeway, and a board member from Shelby. And it was to work on, the village has a budget deadline at the end of this month. So they're pressing hard to try and get us to commit how much we're willing to pay in the next contract that would start January 1st. And what ended up happening was a lot of numbers were thrown out at the meeting. I kept asking, as my colleagues know, for a read-ahead. These emails that I exchange, especially with other towns, I try to, if it's other town officials, I try to include all the board members, you know, so you're aware of what's going on. And I kept asking for a read-ahead, and we show up to the meeting, and one of the village trustees had us a piece of paper with a budget on there that we're like, where'd this come from? And as Shelley knows, I had already foiled the village and had their budget. That was the 8-pager attachment we're talking about. And it wasn't matching up. I challenged a lot of things, and then sent an email this morning saying, we probably don't need to meet again unless you're going to explain some of this further and change how you're approaching it. But I will say, we pay $35,000 a year for ambulance service. You pay $224, I think that is $24,000 for the fire district. And I'm betting we're going to get close to double what we're paying now for ambulance. We will not be nearly as difficult situation as Ridgeway and Shelby. Ridgeway has twice as many ambulance calls, so if they buy the logic of base the charges on ambulance calls, the utilization rate, that Ridgeway will be paying north of $100,000 a year, and Shelby's slightly less. And no one likes it. Just so you know, you're going to hear it here first. I think they're looking at a 25%. That's 25% increase in the village tax rate inside the village of Medina. Yes.
So
It's not privilege of the floor. Should I go there? I just did. I recognize I'm joking.
It's kind of the idiot's question, but we've used an ambulance and we pay this huge amount of money. So why are the towns also paying huge amounts of money?
Oh, I love that.
I don't understand that either.
I have asked that question every time. Well, the last contract we were under now, the one we signed 2 years ago, the year prior, as we negotiated this, they agreed, the village, under different leadership, to pay a company to get the reimbursements. Because in a perfect world, you would charge for the ambulance service the amount that the ambulance service costs. And you wouldn't have to then burden taxpayers or anybody else, right? This costs $900 to get you to Medina. If you're going to go to Buffalo, it's $2,500. You know, those kinds of numbers, right? They're out there. You have insurance, you don't have insurance, one way or the other. If all that were to come back as revenue, it should balance out the cost of expenses. It's never done that. In 11 years I've been doing this, never done it. And so they agreed to have, they hired a company that specializes in this, a collections company essentially, to collect. And during the contract that we're under now, the fire chief just said recently that he thinks the receipts will be higher but not 100%. But the shortfall is still significant. They're claiming, one of the arguments they're making is that the fire department itself only hires fire EMS qualified individuals. So every one of those EMS fire individuals should count towards ambulance service being provided. We're like, well, no. How many calls are just fire only? What about all the fire training and fire equipment and fire protective gear? All that stuff shouldn't be part of what we're paying for. We already have a fire department we're paying $224,000 for. And Shelby's paying $300,000 plus for two fire companies, and Ridgeway has their own fire company for $300,000-ish. So we're already almost $1 million into this as the three towns, and yeah, we can't afford to do our own ambulance service, but how much can you really tack on? So, and a long answer to your point, that has been, and you brought this up when you got back from the meeting, one of the links they sent from the follow-up to that meeting was rural ambulance services. One of the biggest challenges is low reimbursement rates. And one of the faults is the rate at which Medicare and Medicaid pay.
Yeah.
And that's a state dictated number, and it's way lower than other states, so we're not even, there's no barking up that tree. You're only gonna get that much, and it does not cover the amount to transport. So, a lot of challenges, and I told them at the meeting, and obviously, this is one of the things that's difficult, because y'all, have been trusting me to negotiate these things, and I'm going in there hoping I can do the best I can, but I have to end the statement with, like, it's an excellent ambulance service. What they have in the 7 other towns is not nearly the response rate. It takes almost twice as long to get an ambulance in the other 7 towns, because they have 2 ambulances and 1 fly car for 7 towns in the rest of Orleans County. So we have a good service, and we want to keep it, but we don't want to pay more than our fair share. So anyways, I want to make sure everybody heard that, and more to follow. There's another meeting next week, and it'll all be decided by the end of April what they plan to charge us. Yeah.
And that's because they're working on their budget.
Yeah, that's exactly why they're pressing us, and we're not. It'd be tough to come up with some other scenario by January, So I think if we don't get a favorable outcome, that I will subsequently push on our behalf, if everyone agrees, to have a very short contract, 2 years, so that we can try to fight this again and not live under a 4-year contract with exorbitant costs. Yeah.
So are you, by paying as the town, is that paying for monies that they are in arrears from the previous year? Or is it in anticipation of the current
Another
year?
good question. So because it's off cycle, their budget year starts May 1st, goes around, ours starts January 1st. It's somewhat of a back look as to what's last year been, what's the current year, and now we're projecting as of January of 2027 this amount as a deficit. And we want to calculate what we're going to charge the towns based on this estimated deficit. And as my colleagues will attest, I spent a lot of time drilling down on that line because that was incorrect. There are all sorts of errors in it, and we're challenging those numbers. But at some point, if we get it all agreed against the deficit, it's based, to answer your question, on their best guesstimate about what things will look like starting January 1st, because that's what they should use in the charges. They can't, internal to this contract, charge us more. We've already paid our $35,000 in this year. So. All right, motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Thanks everybody for coming.
Well, if you'd like to stay for coffee, we can talk afterwards.
I don't drink coffee.
If you'd like to stay for a pop, I'll buy you a drink.
I don't drink pop.
Would you like a glass of water? I'm trying to extend the
I'm
my hand here,
fine.
but I assure you that I don't mean to talk over you or be disrespectful. That wasn't. I try not to, but I'd like to be heard too. But I'd like to talk with you. I don't want to have this back and forth over something so foolish. Okay?
Well, you're saying a constituent is here asking something, a question, and you're saying it's foolish.
That is foolish, Paul.
Okay.
But I'm allowed to have an opinion too. But I asked you.
But you're not supposed to talk to your constituents that way.